Um, well, by the time I got infected, and I shouldn't say by the time because it was in the beginning stages of it, and so it was the news was constantly being flooded with stories about COVID, and as a matter of fact, I was music director for a major event for Microsoft the end of February, and soon as I left Seattle and came back home, Seattle had an outbreak. I didn't cause the outbreak. They had an outbreak at a nursing home. And so, at that time, it was really in the news heavy. So when I started to have symptoms, it was like, is it that or is it not that? So that's kind of how I started being aware. I started keeping my eye on what was going on with me, which initially it was just a little sporadic cough here and there. And then it went from a cough to a fever. And so I carried the fever for about 2 weeks. But I didn't have any other symptoms. I didn't have any cough. I didn't have the cough went away. I didn't have any other cough or shortness of breath or any of that. I just had this fever. It was like just enough to be high, 99 to 100, and I called the hotline and, they were like, if you don't have all three of these symptoms, if you don't at least have the fever, the cough, and the shortness of breath, you can't even get tested.
Wow.
And I believe that was part of the problem. I believe if I could have gotten tested early on, I could have avoided it getting as bad as it got. So yeah, that was the beginning stages of it.
Okay. So you had a cough. About how long did that cough last before it turned into a fever?
It was maybe 2 or 3 days, and it wasn't consistently. It was like one day I just noticed I kind of kept, coughing. Then the next day it was better. Then the next day was better. Then that Monday it was back a little bit. So it was that kind of thing. It was real sporadic. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's just a little cold or something. So I took some vitamin C and, did some natural stuff, and it kind of went away. But then the fever kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
And so go ahead.
At what point did you say, like, we gotta take some precautions. We gotta do something about this. Like, at what point did it become an urgency for you?
So as the fever lasted, I was zapping it with, like I said, more vitamin C, Tylenol, this and that and the other. And so after it lasted about a week, I went to the hospital to try to get tested anyway. I was like, we just gonna go up here and see if they'll test me. And they wouldn't test me. They basically gave me some more Tylenol, told me to go home and keep taking the Tylenol because they couldn't test me unless I had other symptoms. So I went back home and I was laid up for a week. And during that week, it started getting worse. Then the cough came back. Then as the week went on, it started getting harder for me to breathe. So that was Saturday when I went to the hospital. By the following Saturday, I was in horrible shape. Like I couldn't hardly, like I was breathing like panting, trying to just get enough oxygen. And so that Sunday morning when I woke up, and then by then I was coughing uncontrollably.
And just to give our listeners some time frame, so this is about maybe, would you say, a 3-week time frame from when it turned from a sporadic cough to this, like, I can't breathe, about 3 weeks?
Yep.
Okay. So go ahead. You said you got up that Sunday and what?
So I got up that Sunday morning and I couldn't hardly talk because if I said a couple of words, I started coughing. And by this time when I coughed, it was uncontrollable. So I would get maybe 2 words out and then I'm just coughing. And so my sister, she said, I think you better go to the hospital. So I said, yeah, I think you're right. So my friend drove me to the hospital and we had a friend because now by this time on the news, they're saying the hospitals are full. Mm-hmm. Like, Beaumont's full, this one's full, Providence, all of them are full. So we had a friend who is a nurse practitioner and her husband works at Henry Ford Macomb. She was like, go to Henry Ford Macomb because they're not crowded there. And so we drove all the way out to Henry Ford because I live in Southfield. We drove all the way out to Macomb County, and I went through the line, and I mean, they took my vitals, they gave me the swab and everything, and before I knew it, they were rolling the wheelchair out to take me in, and I was admitted that day into the hospital.
Wow. So you at that point they gave you the test.
Yeah.
And the swab was just in the mouth, or it was up the nose like what we've seen?
Up the nose, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So they come back and they say, what is their response once they get the results? What did they say to you?
They weren't saying much. They were just doing. So they had one guy taking my blood pressure and taking my vitals. They had another person that did the swab. Then somebody else was coming out with the wheelchair, and they put me in the wheelchair. They rolled me into to the hospital and put me in the triage or emergency room or whatever. Immediately they put me on oxygen. They had this big old oxygen mask on my face. Immediately they brought in the x-ray machine to x-ray my chest. And they were like, okay, we're going to admit you, and we're just going to keep you on the oxygen, and we're just monitoring it. So they admitted me that day, and about 2 hours after I got there, I was in a room. And they hooked me up to the IV. They were just prepping me. So that following morning, which was Monday morning, the doctors came in and they were like, we're just monitoring you. You have pneumonia in both lungs. It's really bad. And, we're hoping that we don't have to put you on a ventilator, but it looks like it's heading in that direction. And so me, being the person I am and listening to the Holy Spirit, and that's the only thing I can attribute it to. It was the Holy Spirit that spoke to me, and I said what I heard. I said, why don't you just go ahead and put me on a ventilator now? And they looked at each other and they was like, huh? And I was like, yeah. I said, if it's already heading that way, I would rather you get ahead of it and do it now rather than waiting till I deteriorate and you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so let's just do it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And so they looked at each other, they looked at me, and they was like, okay. And a few hours later, I was on the ventilator. They put me to sleep. They gave me anesthesia. They told me they'd be giving me anesthesia. And they put me to sleep and put me in the ICU on a ventilator. And they called my sister because she was my contact person that I put down. And at first, the nurse had sent my sister a text and said, he's doing fine. He's the ventilator's only doing 40% breathing for him. He's doing great, blah, 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 blah. So then a little while after that, the doctor called my sister and was like, I don't know why she told you that. She was like, Joseph is very sick. He's only breathing 30% on his own. And if the ventilator wasn't breathing for him, he would be dead.
That's crazy. And
yeah.
And they were going to wait to put you on a ventilator.
Yes.
How?
And this was the same day.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And so that was Monday. I woke up like late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. I'm not sure the exact time. I woke up in ICU, and they had taken the ventilator out and just had me back on oxygen. And because what happened was the ventilator was breathing for me 70%, but it was literally like every hour or two, I was getting stronger. So it went from 70-30 to 50-50. Then it kept going up and kept going up till they were able to take me off the ventilator, late that night. So I thank God for that.
Yes.
A lot of people ask, like, what was it like being on a ventilator? I'm like, I don't know. That's like asking somebody, what was it like to have surgery? I don't know. I was asleep. I don't remember any of it, but I do remember waking up in the ICU, hooked up to everything that they could hook me up to.
Wow. And, so at what point did you realize I can recover from this thing? At what point did you realize that?
When I got out of ICU.
Okay.
after they took me off the ventilator, I was still in there a couple of more days. At which point I was conscious, but I have when you've been under anesthesia and you come off, you have what's called delirium. So you're conscious, but you're loopy. Like so, every time they come in to check your vitals and switch something out or whatever, they always ask you a bunch of questions. Do you know your name? Do you know where you are? I'm in the hospital. Which hospital? I don't know. Do you know what month it is? I'm not sure. Do you know what year it is? Do you know who the president is? So at first, it's literally like they're asking you these questions and you can't think of the answer. So you're really loopy. But as time goes by, you start to remember, you start to get your faculties back. So that Friday evening, they took me out of ICU and put me in a regular room. And that's when I started to feel like, okay, I'm getting on the other side of this thing.
Wow.
But when you have a ventilator in you, you still feel a little soreness in your chest and little stuff going on. So when I would feel a little pain, I'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
What's that, Jesus?
Wow. Well, it's no secret that a lot of people have been saying how it's a madhouse in many of these medical facilities. And I know you were sedated for a large period of the time you were there, but from what you can recall, what was the energy like? Was it mayhem and like they're saying it is, or was it kind of more relaxed?
So when I was in ICU, I could see a lot more of what was going on because the whole front of the room that you're in is glass. So I could see out into the hall, and I mean, they were busy. It wasn't mayhem, but they were just constantly moving. You constantly saw people going up and down the hall, and then when they come in your room, so they have their scrubs on, but when they come in your room, when you have COVID, they have to put this other thing over their scrubs. It's like a gown that they put on backwards, and this hat and this mask and all of this, just to come in your room and check your vitals or do whatever. Then when they're done, they have to take it all off and throw it in the garbage. So literally every time you turned around, you saw people putting on the thing because they were getting ready to go in somebody's room, or you saw them moving up and down the hall. And, you could just tell, they were working hard. And then even when I got I joked about this before, because in the ICU, they're constantly checking on you. They're constantly right there. But when you get up in your regular room, they don't check on you as much because they're checking on everybody on the whole floor. So when I was in ICU, they'd be like, Mr. Smith, would you like some more ice water? I was like, yes, can you bring me some ice water? So they bring me cups of ice water and I'm all happy. I get up in my regular room. I push the nurse's button. They say, yes, may we help you? I said, yes, can I have some ice water, please? They were like, okay, we'll bring you some. An hour goes by, 2 hours go by, 3 hours go by. I said, what? I said, I'm spoiled. I'm used to the ICU. I need it right now. What y'all doing in there?
Wow.
But when the nurse came in my room, they said, we're just really busy. We're working long days, and so we're getting to everybody when we can. So they were working hard.
Wow. You spoke to their bedside manner a little bit, the differences between the regular room and the ICU. But I'm curious, when they talked to you about the disease specifically, did they say you're going to be fine, you're going to recover? Did they offer you hope? Did they say it's really, what kind of things did they say, or did they just not say anything?
They were saying very little, but they were giving me encouragement as far as giving me updates. Like, for example, when they were taking me out of the ICU Friday night, I said, I asked him, I said, am I doing okay? And he's like, yeah, you must be doing good. You're getting out of here. So I was like, okay, cool. So when they took me up to the ICU, to the regular room, they put me on, they took me off the mask and put me on the oxygen that goes up your nose, the little thing. And so, they were just like, you're doing good. We're just trying to wean you off the oxygen and get you back breathing on your own. So they would give me updates. how my vitals were looking, but they weren't really saying a lot about the virus. They were just kind of giving me updates that I was getting better and getting stronger, and so I think the reason why was because they're still learning about this thing. So they're figuring out, literally, one doctor told me they're literally figuring it out as they're going along.
Wow.
And treating the symptoms. That was like, that's all we can do, because we're learning about this as it's happening in real time.
Wow. So having been infected, recovered, upon your discharge, did they give you any specifics, like on how you should behave, or administer yourself moving forward?
Yeah. So one of the side effects of having COVID is that a lot of people develop blood clots. So I have a blood clot in my right lung even right now. So I'm on blood thinners and stuff like that to get rid of that. So they told me about that, and basically I had to quarantine. Once I got out of the hospital, I had to go in quarantine for another 14 days at home. And they were just basically telling me, just the basic stuff that you already been hearing, just kind of stay away from people and wash your hands and wear your mask and, take it easy, and just kind of giving me those. And that's basically what I did. I came home and I rested. I just laid around, I ate, and, just to get my strength back up. And it took a minute, because when I first got out of the hospital, like, I couldn't even talk this much. If I talked too much, I would get out of breath. Getting up to go to the bathroom and coming back and getting back in the bed, I would be exhausted.
Wow.
So it takes time for your lung capacity to build back up. Yeah.
Wow. So moving forward, well, let's stop there for 1 second. Going back to the diagnosis, I'm just curious. I know you're a man of faith, but what went on in your mind when you realized, wow, I'm a victim of this thing that has been going around the world?
You know what my first question was, and it still hasn't been answered. I was racking my brain trying to figure out where I got it from.
Yeah.
Because to this day, I don't know where I got it from. And that's scary. Especially when you hear that people can transmit it without having any symptoms, and it could be airborne, or they don't know if it's airborne. Or I was racking my brain trying to figure out where I got it from. There were moments where I was very concerned, but one of the things that I wouldn't allow myself to do is I didn't want to hear all of the death toll. Even when I was in the hospital room watching TV, I would peek in on the news, but I didn't sit and watch people died. This, how many people died today? Michigan had this many deaths. Because I knew if I got that in my spirit, then my mind would take over and I would start thinking too hard. So I just tried to stay focused on that. A lot of people are recovering from it. They just not talking about it
Yep.
so as much. And stay focused on that, man.
Wow. How's life changed since?
I definitely, have had to slow down and, just rest more, which was good, because I think I needed it, because I go hard, and I was going hard. And so, the rest was good. It gave me a time to, reflect and think about some things, as well as, just focus on what's important. When you come close to death, it makes you recalibrate a little bit and remember what's important.
Yeah.
And so it definitely gave me a greater appreciation for life, and a greater appreciation for God and my family, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. You talked about going hard. I gotta insert, you are the maestro himself. Let's talk about some of your work in the music business. You mentioned the Clark sisters and Dorinda Clark Cole. Give us some of those tracks that you're responsible for.
I did a song for her. She has an album called Living It. I did a song on there called When. I co-wrote it and produced it. She has a song called For the Rest of My Life that I did for her, and also It's Okay on her Taking It Back album. And we've done so much work together. I've literally toured the world with her. Written some stuff with Fred on some groups that he produced. One group called the Singletons.
Oh, I love the Singletons.
Yeah.
What happened to them?
You know what? I think their contract with Fred ended, and then I think they did a couple of independent records after that, and then they just kind of, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I did a song on their album called "Worthy to Be Praised" with Fred, and I wonder what happened to them.
Yeah, they had they had a couple nice little tracks. Yeah,
absolutely. I did produced 2 songs on the Deep Blue Sea soundtrack. Came out 20 years ago. The Shark movie with Samuel Jackson and LL Cool J. I did 2 songs on that soundtrack, and so I've just been busy, over the years, and doing my thing. I used to be music director for a stage play called Perilous Times. Anybody that's in Detroit knows about Perilous Times.
Yes,
shout out to TJ Hemphill and
shout out.
Yeah, so I just try to stay working, try to stay busy. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. You mentioned the Clarks. I'm curious. Have you seen the movie?
Absolutely.
What's your commentary? What you think?
I loved it actually. When I first heard that they were doing the movie, because I knew about it when they were shooting it, and I never said this to Dorinda, but it was always in the back of my mind. I was like, I hope this movie ain't no fluff piece. You know what I'm saying? Because I know the behind the scenes, the real deal. So I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna tell this, are they gonna tell that? They probably just gonna do a fluff piece because they're real private. So I'm like, it's gonna be a fluff piece. So when I saw the movie, and I'm like, oh, they going there. Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, they went.
Yeah, they went there. So
but it was really good. I thought it was. I just felt it was a good way of telling this story, because I honestly think they could have had a 2-day special, really, if they really got it deep into the work that Mom did. And not even Mom by herself, but let's just talk about the Moss family, because that's a whole nother generation that, you know what I'm saying? So we go Moss family, then lead up to Maddie Moss and the Clark sisters. That's a 2-day special easily, if we really, you know what I'm saying? But I was just excited to see that they were all here, regardless to all other stuff. There's a lot of angles we can go, but just the fact that they were all here to be able to see how they've impacted the industry. And it wasn't, so-and-so passed away, now we want to do a tribute to the family. You know what I mean? So I was that made me happy. And it was a really good, it told just enough to give you an idea without, people want more, but that's enough.
Right.
That's enough to give you an idea of what went down. But I thought it was exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the highest watched, highest viewed biopics on Lifetime. I think they had 11 million viewers or something like that. So that says a lot. Yeah.
That's good. Well, man, I don't want to hold you. We spent a lot of time, but I want you to give some closing thoughts to having been a victim of COVID and now recovered. Because I want to make sure we put that out there. You can recover, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But what is your wisdom to those who may have not experienced it like you have? What is your wisdom to them?
I definitely want to say that don't let fear take over. You can recover from it. It's not a death sentence. I definitely think that, as the medical professionals are figuring their way through it, they have made some mistakes. And I think some of those mistakes have cost people their lives. But I just don't believe that, if that's not what God has for you, if it's not your time to go, you're not going anywhere. And so don't worry, don't let fear, and by all means, take the precautions. It's simple, because I see a lot of people as time goes on, people are getting lax and people are not, some people never took it seriously. And it's like, it's a serious thing, so don't go out here gambling, keep your face covered, keep the social distancing, wash your hands. And by all means, don't let fear come in. And definitely let's pray for and keep in mind those people who have lost loved ones, you know, because people have lost loved ones and couldn't even bury their family correctly. You know, you know, that's the sad part. I mean, my family went through so much anguish because they couldn't come see me in the hospital. They're not allowed in the hospital, in the building, not even in your room. They can't even come in the building, you know. So, you know, you can't even go check on your people. That's terrible. That's a hard thing.
That's
but
hard.
I believe, yeah. But I believe that we're going to get through this and come on the other side of this, and we're going to be okay.
That's right. That's right. I believe that too. Listen, I kind of chuckled there when you said you said the comment about when it's not your time, it's not your time, because I talked to a mutual friend of ours. I won't say any names, but you know who it is. And she said, I said, you've been praying for, he all right. I've been praying. I've been talking about, he ain't going nowhere. I'm putting that oil on. It's gonna be all right. He coming through that. You already know what I'm talking about. He coming through that.
Yeah.
Like, she just went on and on. I said, thank God he did. Thank God he did. But she was adamant. She said, he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
You already know what I'm talking about. I ain't even gonna
Absolutely.
say nothing. But we are so
Absolutely.
glad. We are so glad that you're doing well and recovering. Looks like you probably be getting back into the music a little bit. You dibbling dabbling.
Yeah, I got a project that I gotta finish, and been doing a little bit editing on a film. So usually I'll stop in here for a couple of hours, but I got my laptop too, so I'm getting ready to go back home and lay down and
well,
do
take
some work
it easy
at home.
That's right. Take it easy. Don't go. We know you. I know you can go hard, but you know, maybe in a couple of months we'll pick up the speed. But I'm glad to see you doing well.
Thanks, bro, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to tell my story, man.
Absolutely, because I think we need to have more stories like this too. Because a lot of times we don't hear these stories. We hear the opposite. You know, the death tolls and all that. You know, but we don't hear the stories of people who've actually been hospitalized and came out and have survived. So I long to share more stories like this because I think people need to hear it.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, brother, you take care. I appreciate you joining me, and I'll be seeing you.
All right, bro.
All right, take care.